So if you're planning to buy a condo in BGC or Makati, you should watch this video first. If you're buying it for an investment, if you're a wildly wealthy man or woman and you're just going to live there for the rest of your life and you don't care about its actual value or an ROI, by all means knock yourself out. But I'm going to demonstrate how real estate in all of BGC and most of Makati is grossly overpriced and perhaps one of the worst investments in the history of mankind. So right off the top, you could take my Uptown Park Suites Tower 2 condo that I rent for 45,000 pesos. 45,000 pesos is going to be around 800 bucks. That condo sells for 13 million pesos. 13 million pesos is going to be approaching $250,000 American dollars. So there's also an association dues, which is what the owner pays, not the tenant, basically 100% of the time. So after those are paid, my landlord will be receiving about 700 bucks a month. Now, $700 a month, if you factor in property taxes, having to fix the water heater if it goes out, having to fix the toilet if it goes out, having to fix the air con if it goes out, and many other responsibilities, is an absolutely moronic investment, realistically. And it is grossly overpriced on the purchased end. For a rental, if you can rent a condo in an upscale building, you know, in the best part of BGC, that's not too bad. I mean, what's 700 bucks or 800 bucks or whatever to a foreigner, maybe 1,000 with electric, water, internet, all that. That's nothing for a foreigner. You know, you got a nice balcony. By all means, I'm not putting down the Park Suites, but the purchase price simply doesn't make sense. It's just not there. In order for that investment to make sense, $250,000 purchase or something in the neighborhood of $250,000, it would need to rent for in excess of double that for that to have any type of an ROI or to make that make sense. So on the high end, over 10 million type of condos from all these buildings, from Park Suites to Gramercy to, you know, from Mega World properties to Century properties to any other properties, the fact that they're renting from like 30 to 50,000 pesos and selling from like 7 million to 15 million just indicates a moronic investment. And again, if you're just going to live there and you're not going to rent it out, you can totally make it make sense. If you're worth, I don't know, 20 million US dollars and you want to buy a condo for $1 million in BGC, like a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom or a penthouse or something, knock yourself out. Maybe you're an older retired guy, or you met a Filipina and you want to have a place here or whatever, that makes sense. And another thing that they will hit you with from Boracay Mega World properties to, BGC to Makati to wherever is, no, you can Airbnb it. So you're going to make a ton, because Airbnbs are going to generally rent for about double plus a little bit more, because, they're including electricity, the cleaning, all that good stuff. So, my unit, for instance, would rent for, 60 bucks a night rather than, the 25 bucks a night or whatever you pay in a long-term thing. But here's the problem with that, as somebody that knows all about this business. Your condo's not going to rent every single night, okay? In fact, you might get a couple of long stint type people in there in a BGC environment. You might get a foreigner coming to meet his LDR, do a discovery trip that'll, rent your place for 3 weeks. So great, you made some money. Here's the problem. The electricity, first of all. When you rent an Airbnb and you don't have one of those cards like hotels have, where you have to remove the card because it's the key to the room, so it automatically shuts down every little inch of electricity. what's going to happen is your tenant's not going to respect your electricity, and they're going to run the fucking electricity at 16 degrees 24 hours a day, more than likely. So you may come back to your unit and see that you paid, 15,000 pesos for 3 weeks of electricity, sadly, especially if you don't have inverter air conditioners. Second of all, a lot of times you're going to book 15 to 20 days of the month if you're lucky. So even though you're getting double what it's worth, say, when you take out the electricity, you're going to book it half the time. Another thing, you're going to need a caretaker. Unless you live next door and you're a fucking maid, you're going to have to pay somebody else to clean it. You understand? Or, God forbid, you're living, somewhere else on some island or back in the States or whatever, you're going to need a full-out caretaker, like someone to figure out the key system, someone to figure out, if somebody damages something, if there's a problem, an emergency, the toilet breaks, just the general cleaning, and the key handoff, So basically the Airbnb thing doesn't really make sense either, because you're not going to book your place 30 days out of the month. There's no chance. If you're an ambitious, smart super host with a perfect unit appropriately priced and you keep dropping it to, keep up with the people that are dropping the market, you'd be lucky to book it 20 days out of 30. An average person that's not a super host, doesn't know what the fuck they're doing, you're going to book it about half the time. And some of these condos might fetch in the $40 ranges, $49 a night or whatever. And Airbnb charges a lot of fees. They'll take your price, they eat it, they take a bite out of your price a little bit, and then they throw on several hundred pesos or, $10 or, a percentage, 10%, whatever. So Airbnb is going to be making 20% of your money. And on top of that, like I said, on an average month, you'll be booking 15 days guaranteed, 20 if you're super ambitious and you run an impeccable show with photography type, photographs, and you have 5-star ratings, guest favorite, super host, you name it. And if you don't speak Tagalog, you should have somebody with access to your account that does, if you're some American that thinks they're going to do this Airbnb business from America or from, the next island over. So you can cut that out with the whole you're going to Airbnb it for $100 a night. No, it's going to rent for like 60, sometimes down to as low as 49. You got to move with the market. So people will come in and undercut the market. If you have any product and it's on a platform, if somebody decides a pack of cigarettes is $2, then the rest of the market needs to acclimate to that $2 price point that has been set by some moron that bought too many cartons of cigarettes. Same thing with a condo. If a rich guy owns a condo outright and he's sick of getting bookings 15 days a month, he's going to start making his condo in BGC $35, sadly, because he doesn't give a shit. He's just trying to get a little bit back. So then that's going to mean everybody that has theirs at 60 is going to have trouble because maybe he owns multiple units and they're all $35 to $39. He's just fucked up and dropped the market. So the reality is the Airbnb thing is not really a thing either. So you're just going to end up better off getting a long-term tenant in there, and you're going to end up getting the $700 in that instance. And it goes up and down whether you go into cheaper things that are 30K or you go into the big boys that are renting for, 100,000 plus. So the reality is that the rent to purchase price ratio makes 0.0 cents in BGC from top to bottom, from Tryon Towers to Mega World, One Uptown, Uptown Park Suites, Bellagio, you name it, it doesn't make sense. Now in Makati, when you go from buildings like Gramercy to buildings in Greenbelt to Rockwell, same thing. Hell of a deal to rent, terrible, terrible, terrible deal to buy if you have any type of ROI thought. Again, if you're just the wealthiest man in the world and you want to buy an overpriced condo because it's just one of your 7 condos, by all means, buy away. But as of right now, the market needs to adjust. And I've already seen it adjusting. I've seen condos in buildings that I won't name that were 10 million firm a year ago, and now they're 7.3. Seen it in Boracay, same thing. 10, 11 million firm were sold out last year. Now you got tenants, people that bought them, not the developer. The developer will stay high because they're not going to admit defeat. But people that bought the fucking things are trying to unload them for 6.5, 7, when they just paid 11 a year ago, and they realize, I don't want to live in Boracay, or I'm not in BGC anymore, or whatever. And they're now doing desperation sales at, 70 to 65% of what the developer was charging. So just keep that in mind, that the developer will never fold and they'll act like the market is good. I know another place in Boracay that's a beautiful complex, and the developer is still selling condos at 7 million and 9 million or something, but there's fucking tenants that are doing desperation sales at 4.8 instead of 7, and millions less pesos on the 2 bedrooms or the loft types as well. So the reality is that the market is softening. We need to come down a bit more for it to make sense. The rent never really went up much, maybe 5,000 pesos. Maybe you can sucker in foreigner price and lock someone into an 85,000 peso condo for 130 because they're dumb and it's their first day in Manila. But the real reality is the purchase price is way out of bounds in many areas, from Makati, BGC to Boracay. This is mainly with major developers and buildings and stuff. And the rent never caught up. So hell of a time to rent. Do not buy anything if you're thinking ROI or investment or tenants or Airbnb. I promise you'll thank me later. I have a real estate license in America. I've rented like 6 condos out here. My girl has a bunch of condos. Don't do it. It would be a moronic move. I hope you got some value out of this video. If you did, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell for the notifications, like, comment. I do consultations, jasperinthephilippines@gmail.com. I go live every day, 9 a.m. Manila time. And sana all.